Welcome back, everybody. We are continuing on with today's live stream. The first half has already been posted for those of you who missed it. And now we're on to the second part. Still waiting on parts to arrive to complete the repair process. And in the meantime, we've got an upgrade to do, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. Let's just do a real quick video and sound check. Let's make sure everybody in the chat can see and hear me okay. Can you see and hear me okay? Everybody says good. All right. We should be broadcasting at 1080. I hope you're all joining me again from the earlier stream. So today, you may recall, or continuing on rather, you may recall this Alienware machine that wasn't firing up. Took it apart. It all worked fine in parts, put it all back together, and it continued to work. Hard to say what the problem was. Maybe just the BIOS reset fixed it. Not exactly sure, really, but it ultimately doesn't matter as long as it works. And one of the first things I need to do is clone the hard drive. The hard drive that this has in it is a 1 terabyte drive that is showing a caution status, which generally means the hard drive is close to failure. So I talked to the customer if they wanted to wait until that happens. After all, there's no way for me to know if the drive's got 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 years. I don't know how much life is left in it. But generally speaking, it's not a good sign when a drive is in a caution state. If your data is important to you or you don't want to be inconvenienced with downtime, now's the time to get it done while it's in the shop. And so we're going to do that now. The customer's approved a 500 gig Samsung SSD. So I'm going to take that out of the box. And then what we're going to do is just clone the current drive to the Samsung SSD. And then we just swap them out. All the data's still there. It's all transparent to the customer. System's going to look, the desktop's the same, the programs are all there, the data's all there. It should just be faster and obviously won't be in a failing state. And the way I'm going to start this is I'm going to have to take the top off here. That's just one screw, and then the top slides towards the front. And there's a little connector that I pulled off so quickly I forgot about. It just pulls right off of there. And that just goes onto this header that hangs out. And our drive is located underneath here. So I need to pull this bracket out, which, as I recall, was 2 screws. One here and then one in the opposite corner. Now this clone may take a while depending on how much data he's got on the drive. There's a lot of different ways you can do the clone. You can use a hardware cloning utility, it's basically a hard drive toaster that can clone, but it'll do sectors copies. So it takes quite a long time to do that. And you need a drive of the same size or larger on most of those. We're going from a 1 terabyte drive to a 500 gig drive. So a lot of those hardware cloning devices won't do that. And this is going to be a little tricky because what we're going to have to do, because this computer, if you didn't see this computer before, it's very tight in there. There's not a whole lot of, there's no extra power cable to use to power the drive. There's no extra SATA cable to use. So I'm going to I could do it through USB, but I want it to go faster than that. So what I'm going to do instead, unfortunately, I can't pull the connector off of the drive because that's a different kind of a connector that's used on the slim DVD drives. I forget what they call it. It's still SATA, but they're so close together. It's a smaller connector, and it won't fit on a standard hard drive. The data cable side of it's the same size, but the power cable size of the connector is about half the width of a normal SATA connector. So what I'm going to do instead is I have one of these Bitech, this is an old one from back in the day, but it comes with it converts IDE drives to USB back in, like I say, USB 2.0 days. And these desktop drives require power. You'll see it's got a regular Molex connector on one end of it. And what I need to do, I could grab a PC power supply and short it out if I want to do it that way too. We're just rigging this up just for the clone, so it doesn't matter if it's not elegant as far as solutions go. USB is easier to get it set up and going, but it takes a lot longer. So I'd rather go internally. So this is going to be our power. That's all I need out of this box. And then what I'm going to do is get a Molex to Sata power adapter, which I have towards the back here. So bear with me as I grab that. It should just take me a minute to find one. Oh, this one will do just fine. I have one brand new in a bag, never been opened. I have so many spare cables and things. So this is just gonna plug on here, and then we'll plug it into the back of the drive, just like that. And then I just need to get a spare SATA cable, and we'll run that temporarily, once again, just temporary, from the drive onto one of the SATA connectors on the motherboard, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. It's good to have these kind of spare parts. One of the advantages of being a computer tech, and a disadvantage if you're a hoarder, is when people get rid of older machines, SATA cable's still going to work. You can strip, even if the machine doesn't work, strip it for its switches, its LEDs, its cables. And then having these kind of tools laying around, even though it's several years old, that it still comes in handy today on modern hardware, is pretty incredible. Now our SATA connectors are located underneath the optical drive, so that's going to have to come out as well. So we'll go ahead and pull the optical drive. I think that's just the one screw, and that's that weird SATA connector. Like I say, all slot loading DVD drives use this really small, I don't know if you can tell, but the power connector is much, much smaller. The SATA part of it's still the same size, as I mentioned. And then we're just going to grab a SATA cable here, and we'll plug in wherever we have a spare. There's one right here. And then we'll plug that in. The drive doesn't care if it's upside down or right side up. There's nothing to short out, so you just hang it. It doesn't matter. Then we're going to go ahead and give the drive some power. And then I've got the power brick. This huge power brick goes to this Alienware machine. So let's go ahead and plug that in. That's going to go right there. And we'll plug that in. And I'm going to need a keyboard and mouse, so I'm going to steal the keyboard and mouse off the streaming computer, and we'll just plug that anywhere back here. I need to plug the monitor in. That's going to be HDMI only, I think, on this machine. So I've got my HDMI cable. We're going to plug that in, right. That is not where it goes. It goes over here. And finally, I like to use, when it comes to cloning, I like to use a Acronis. That's the tool I use. Been using it for years. My business relies on a good, reliable tool that's quick and relatively inexpensive. And so since about 2009, I've been using Acronis. I think I discovered Acronis first in 2009, and I've tried other utilities, and I have never found one that comes close to the ease of use, the reliability of Acronis. Do you think they should put me on their payroll for the way I talk about it, right? But, I don't complain about everything. Might seem like it sometimes, but I really do like Acronis. Now we have to get the machine to boot off of the flash drive. So to do that, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to hit delete and get myself into the BIOS here. And I think this is still on VGA mode. Is it going to switch automatically, or do I have to switch it? No, it switched automatically. And ideally, this is actually F2 to get into the BIOS, or to get into what they call setup. We're going to get in there. Actually, I could have just hit F12 and did the boot up options. It looks like for some reason it's missed it and it's trying to load Windows. So I'm going to let it finish loading Windows. It's going to take it a minute because the hard drive is a mechanical drive and it's a little slow. And Macrium Reflect is quick and dirty. Macrium Reflect doesn't auto-resize the partitions. My issue with Macrium Reflect is they don't seem to understand the definition of the word clone. You have to if you have more than one partition on a drive and you want to clone it, Macrium Reflect won't automatically resize those partitions. You have to do it yourself. The whole point of making a clone is you get all partitions, not just one. And with Macrium Reflect, not only does it cost twice as much money, more than twice of what Acronis costs, the cloning function of it, and let's face it, all modern versions of Windows installs by default in multiple partitions. And if you have a factory computer like a Dell or an HP, you could have 5 or 8 partitions from the factory. And to have to manually drag those, excuse me, to manually have to drag those down and resize them should not be an option in Macrium Reflect. If I tell Macrium Reflect I want to clone, it should automatically resize the partitions according to the target size, the size of the target drive, which is what Acronis does for me. I literally just tell Acronis to clone. So I have tried Macrium. I've used the absolute latest version of it, and it just requires far too much input from the user at twice the price. With Acronis, you just click clone and just go. It just does everything for you automatically. Okay, let me shut this back down. Let's turn it back off. This should go through the power off cycle. I thought it would. Yeah, so it's shutting down. And then when it shuts down, I'm going to just keep it tapping F12. I don't have to go into the BIOS with this computer. It varies from motherboard to motherboard. F12 is pretty common, but not every computer adopts that. So we're going to hit F12 over and over and over and over and over. We're going to get a boot menu. I want UEFI boot disk. That's my flash drive. I want Acronis 64-bit. That's going to load the Acronis software. So that's going to take just a moment. Now, it's going to be real easy to know which is our source drive and which is our target, because our target drive is brand new out of the box. It has no existing partition. So what I want to do, I don't want to back up. I don't want to recover. I want to go over here to Tools, and I want to say I want to clone the disk. It says, which clone mode? Automatic. Take a note of that, Macrium Reflect. Automatic. Macrium Reflect only has manual. It wants to know the source drive. Again, real easy. The source drive, you're seeing 2 drives here, and pay close attention to the numbers. One is 931.5 gigs. That's a terabyte. That's the mechanical hard drive. There's the model of it. Disk 3 is a 1.875 gig. That's 2 gigs. That's the flash drive. So we want the source drive to be disk 2 here, which the interface is serial ATA. The 2 gig flash drive is USB. Click Next. Now it's going to try and guess where I'm going to put this clone at. So that's what it's doing right now, is it's looking at the system. It's going, well, you obviously don't want to move to a 2 gig USB drive because it doesn't have enough space for what's on the hard drive. We can copy any size hard drive with Acronis to any other size hard drive or solid state drive, as long as the amount of data on the drive is less than the size of the target drive. So if you have a 8 terabyte hard drive and you want to clone it to a 120 gig SSD, as long as there's less than 120 gigs of data in total on that 8 terabyte drive, Acronis handles it no problem. And that's an extreme example. I don't know why anybody would be in that situation, but I like to use extreme examples just to avoid any follow-up questions like, what if I had a big drive and a little tiny... Anyway, that's disk 1, which says not initialized, 465.8 gigs, Samsung SSD. That's going to be our target. We select that and click Next. And it says, this is what your partition looks like now. There's no partitions. And after, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 partitions. And it's going to resize them and order them automatically. That Macrium Reflect won't do. And so all you have to do, you don't have to drag anything, you don't drop anything, you don't have to organize anything, you don't even have to think beyond this point. You hit the Proceed button, and away it goes. And when it's done, we all have to do is install the new drive, physically install it, and button it back up. So Acronis makes my life a lot easier. Again, the room is going to appear to be very dark because the monitor, the camera thinks that's a big bright light shining at the camera, and it darkens the rest of the room. So I can stand in front of it, which will help a little bit, and that should brighten it up. The camera will compensate for the light. And let's see what we got going on in the chat. We've got 551 people watching live. Hi, everybody. Sorry I hit the ground running and didn't have a chance to really say hello to everybody. We're waiting for Acronis to finish copying. It's going to take a little while, obviously, depending on how much data the customer has, whether or not we're going through USB. There's just a lot of variables, so it'll be done when it's done. Paul Williams wants a shout out. Hi, Paul. Dawn Outwin says, hello from snowy Michigan. It's 73 degrees Fahrenheit outside today. It is too hot for what should be a chilly, brisk time of year. Don Bev has contributed $2 to the channel. Thank you for your contribution, Don. Dawn says it's 14 degrees Fahrenheit in Michigan. I'm jealous. I wish it was 14 degrees. I like the cold weather. It's minus 2 degrees Celsius in Belfast. Negative 36 degrees in Northern Ontario. -27 degrees Fahrenheit in Maryland. Do you have to pay for Acronis each year a new version comes out? No. Well, you can continue to use the same version of Acronis as long as it meets your needs indefinitely. Your license is not a subscription, it's a license, so you own it for life. However, as new technologies come out, like M.2 or NVMe or different operating systems using different types of partition tables or formats, then you may find that your old version of Acronis no longer recognizes that. So I always update to the latest version of Acronis. It costs about $30 a year. It's not very expensive. A lot of computer clubs often sell Acronis at a discount price to members as well. And the latest version of Acronis will copy from any storage device, anything at all. So it doesn't matter if it's a solid state, mechanical, flash drive, USB drive, it doesn't care. As long as you've got enough space. You just may need the latest version to see the latest technology and the latest operating systems. That's all. But my Acronis 2009 will still work. If I had a Windows XP to copy, it would do it just as well today as it did then. It just won't recognize modern hardware controllers, hard drive controllers, which is part of your chipset. So it'll say you've got, I don't see any hard drives is what it's going to say. But on an old computer that originally had XP installed on it all those years ago, when, say, 2007, that old version of Acronis will work just as well today on that old hardware as it did back then. $30 is cheap when you count the hours of work it saves you. Well, yeah, and the fact I can get it done the first time and I don't have to manually set up all and resize all the partitions and order the partitions that Macrium Reflect requires you to do, it's an $80 or $90 product. I don't understand why Macrium Reflect is not competitively priced against their main competition, which to me would be Acronis. However, it's not for me to say how they can run their business. I just want to use the tool that does the job the most reliably, the fastest, that requires the least amount of effort, with obviously the tool that's going to be less likely to have any mistakes made by me because I'm in a hurry. I don't need all those check boxes and if this, then this, and Macrium Reflex is just overly complicated. Again, I'm really disappointed because everybody talks so highly of it, but they don't use it obviously in a business environment, certainly not the way I do, because I would be pulling my hair out if I had to rely on that. I hope in the future Macrium Reflect will address the definition of the word clone, and if they actually define a clone as a exact copy regardless of the size difference, which is what a clone is, I'd be happy to try it again and even use it over Acronis if it's a better product. I'm only interested in the product that meets my needs the best. That's the best value. I am not married to Acronis. I just haven't found anything better. And I've been looking. Well, this is interesting. Remember that hard drive was in a failing state. And here's what happens on hard drives that are failing. You'll have certain sectors that can't read. And this is what again, another thing about Acronis, I can just tell it, ignore all of those. So whatever data was on there is gone or damaged, corrupted, whether it's a piece of a Windows file, a temporary file, part of the swap file, part of something important, part of a piece of spyware, who knows? All I know is the computer did boot and it did work. So whatever was on that damaged sector or sectors is not interfering with the computer's operation. And in anything that, if the customer has a problem with a particular program, they may have to reinstall that program. If some data is corrupted, that's what backups are for. Nothing like, basically what I'm saying is the state of the hard drive is no different now than it was in before I started this process. The data was corrupt. I just didn't know. And now Acronis has pointed that out. Now I can have Acronis just keep popping up every single time it finds an error, but this could go on 1,000 times. So I check a little box that says to ignore all, and that way it won't keep alerting me and stopping, waiting for me to guide it on how to proceed, because I want this done as quickly as possible, and there's nothing I can do to fix that. What's done is done. Some people use Acronis as a data recovery tool because you might have a hard drive that you can't read from, but Acronis might be able to pull the data off the sectors it can read onto a separate drive, and then you plug that separate drive into USB, and you might be able to see your files. Maybe. It depends on how much damage there is. If there's a virus, would that transfer to the new drive? Yes, a virus is just a piece of software. When you do a clone of a hard drive, it means you're copying every temp file. It means you're copying every corrupted file. It means you're copying every virus, every bit of ransomware, every bit of spyware. So you always want to make sure that the computer you're cloning from has already been through a virus scan and a cleanup. Delete all the temp files, or it's just going to take you that much longer to get it done, and then you'll have to clean it up afterwards, which takes you, I suppose it wouldn't take more time because we're on an SSD, so it wouldn't take as long to clean it. It's just the idea that that's the proper process to, if you have a choice. Some people, they run out of hard drive space and there's nothing they can delete. And the computer's inoperable because there's no room for the swap file to write. And when that happens, the only thing you can do is clone it over to a larger drive and then clean it. So that would be an exception. But for the most part, you are getting an exact clone of the drive, regardless of what's on the drive is irrelevant. The Acronis sees ones and zeros. That's all it sees, ones and zeros. And it's copying wherever there's a 1 or a 0, it's moving it from one drive to the other. It's that simple. What those ones and zeros actually are with regards to data, programs, photos, music, movies, Acronis doesn't care. Would it be much better to do a clean install? If you have installation media and you want to sit down and re-download all your updates again, put in all your drivers again, reinstall all your software again. This customer doesn't have the software that came with the machine. If it's got Office, they don't know where it came from, so they'd have to repurchase Office, or we'd have to figure out a way to find a license key and then hope it reactivates. A reinstall is always going to be better with reliability and performance. However, it's also more time consuming and it may leave the customer out in the cold when it comes to some software. Many times customers have no idea how software got on their machine. I've encountered that I'd say at least 3 times a week. I have this discussion where I say to a customer, just give me your disk and we'll reinstall it. They go, what do you mean, what disk? Well, then just give me your product key. What's a product key? Well, where did the software come from? Your computer didn't come with this. Where did it come from? I don't know. Well, I can't put it back if you don't have it for me to put back on. Do you have a receipt for when you paid for the software? I don't know. This is what you typically hear from customers. So if you can do a clone for these customers, it saves you both a big headache. Even though a clean install, a fresh install, can never be beaten. It's always a great way to go. But since this computer's not having any problems, it's already going to seem faster by just switching to an SSD. So it's still going to, the customer, when he gets it back, is going to be like, wow, this is a lot faster. So. Let's see how we're doing over here now. One of the things Acronis is historically famous for is being extraordinarily optimistic on the time remaining. This time remaining says 6 minutes. I've seen 6 minutes take an hour or longer. So I'm standing in front of it to block the light. So I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm just trying to block the light so you guys can see me. Just looking over here in the chat. Does the computer have 2.5-inch drive bays? No, I don't believe it does. But that's irrelevant. Someone's telling me how to use Macrium Reflect. I don't think you're getting my point. When I click the clone option on Macrium Reflect, I should not have to find some checkbox somewhere to have the partitions reset. It's just ridiculous. It's pointless. Because if you want to copy individual partitions, that's a partition copy. It's not a clone. It should be, when I click the clone button, all that should be set automatically for me. I shouldn't have to go digging around. And they're adding more steps that are completely pointless under the definition of the word clone. You're either doing a partition copy or you're doing a clone. It's one or the other. And when you're doing a clone, the option to resize partitions or to move them shouldn't even exist for the user. That shouldn't even be an option. So Macrium needs to, in my opinion, if Macrium wants me to use and recommend their product, they need to fix that first. We do see a big discrepancy between what somebody sitting at home watching videos all day will use to clone a drive, who's technically competent and who's only doing things for themselves and friends and family, versus a paid computer technician who has liability, accountability, responsibility to the customers of which they're paying them for their time. And there's a big, big difference there, folks. And so obviously, if you already have a clone utility that you use and you like, I'm not telling you not to use it. I've never said you shouldn't use it. My channel is here to educate people who don't know what a clone is or they don't know how to do a clone. And so we end up with people in the chat who, I don't know, they police the videos or they think they're smarter than everybody else and they want to boast about how much brighter they are. I don't honestly care what you use. I don't make any money from selling Acronis. I don't sell it. Just sharing with you what it's like to run a computer repair shop. And, you know, if you've got another tool that you use, then by all means, use it, no problem. I don't care. I don't know why you care when I use. It's weird. But I'm referring to some comments in the chat. Lots of people, not just one person, lots of people are chiming in with lots of cloning utilities, and some of which require quite a bit of technical knowledge to understand how to use. So I don't do that on my channel, and I don't do that for customers either. We want to use tools that are priced, you know, good value for the dollar, reliable, consistent. And so I can move, the quicker I can help this customer, the sooner I can help the next one. Customers like to be helped quickly. The more work you can get done in a day, the more money you can make in a day. And if you have to go back to fix something, then you start losing money right away. So. It says we got 1 minute and 19 seconds still to go. Have I always been on the domestic side of repair? No, I started off on residential repair, but you really, at the peak of it, I had about 450 customers and was barely making ends meet. It was working very, very hard. When you work for businesses, you get a lot more regular work and you establish a repertoire with the customer with regards to expectations and pricing. Sometimes you deal with residential clients that can be a real pain. They want everything for nothing, and they have nothing to do all day, and they want you to tutor them, and they think it's technical support when it's not, and it just creates arguments, and people get upset. Everybody involved gets upset. Customer gets upset. Tech gets upset. It's taking up my time for something I'm not making money from. They think that it's included in what they paid for. You really don't run into that with businesses, and if I did, I just wouldn't service that business. And so overall, what's happened is I still, from time to time, do residential work. None of the computers you've seen today are for residences, though. These are all business machines you've seen today. This Alienware was purchased as a gaming machine for the business owner's son, and his son has grown out of it and given it back to his father. His father's using it for the business. Do people constantly harass you with technical support calls? No, I pretty much have removed all those customers. They did at first, I allowed it to happen. I mean, after all, people could only harass you to the point that you are giving them consent to do it. Has any of your customers had an SSD failure yet? No, I have never seen a bad SSD from any of my customers. And they were first installed back around 2012, 2011. I know the machine I was just working on, that SSD was from 2013, so They just work. I don't know what to say. See, Bill Leatherland has joined us in the chat. Hi, Bill. It's always good to see Bill. He's a moderator here in the chat, big supporter of the channel. He wants to know if the first part is going to be on YouTube. Yeah, Bill, the first part, not only is it going to be, it's already there. Anytime you want to watch it, it's already available for you. Let's take a look. Now it's gone up to 2 minutes. Now it says 1:21. Now it says 59. Now it says 9 seconds. It's getting there. We're almost there. Francisco Breda says hello from Portugal. Carrie, do you get involved with servers and networking aspect of the business? Yes. Do you ever deploy domain login systems for them? No. When you start getting into Active Directory and domains, then they need somebody pretty much full-time. You need somebody to constantly administer that server. When employees are hired, when employees are fired, when access rights are revoked or need to be granted, regular server maintenance, all of that. It's more of, the company needs to hire somebody, in my opinion, to maintain that server. If I let companies do that to me, I could have 3 companies and I wouldn't have time for any other customers. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, because if I do that, something happens, I'm no longer, I don't have the freedom I have now to keep moving. So I don't allow customers to monopolize my time. When a customer starts monopolizing my time, that's when the customer and I have to sit down and discuss perhaps finding another solution for them, finding somebody else to meet their needs. And I've been through that before, where customers' needs have changed and they've grown, and I just simply cannot give them as much time as they need. It's not that they don't need it. I don't have it to give. To give it to them means I have to take it from somebody else. If I have to take it from 50 others to give it to one person, what position does that put me in if that one person decides, I don't want to pay you what you're charging? Suddenly, I'm not working for myself anymore. I'm just working for them. I might as well just go get a regular job and get a regular paycheck versus being put in that position of leverage. So just a cautionary tale if you're self-employed. The disk was successfully cloned. That's good. We're going to click OK. And I'm just going to close. I don't even really need to close it. We're going to pull power, pull the flash drive. We're done with that. And now we're going to take the hard drive out. Now here's where things get tricky. The hard drive is on this tray. And when it slides in, there's a connector that this slides into to make the connection. So the question becomes, let me unplug the SSD from power. Okay, you don't want to be plugging and unplugging the SSD with power on. So we have a perfect clone. I don't need this cable anymore. Now there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You could just throw it in there with a SATA cable and a power adapter and be done with it. That wouldn't be the right way. You could just shove this on there, on the connector. It'd probably stay. You could put some sticky tape or even some duct tape over it. If you really wanted to do a terrible, lazy job, you could. I don't want to do it that way. If I have to, I have to. I haven't used these before, but I was online looking for a drive adapter, and I found these on Amazon for about $12 a piece. And what I'm looking for, see, a lot of the adapters that they sell for 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapters don't have the holes in the right places. They just move them wherever they want to. I wanted one that was designed just like a regular hard drive, and the connector should be in the same place. It's amazing that every adapter isn't made this way. It's the exact opposite. This is the only adapter I have found, the only one that actually has all the holes and connectors supposedly in the exact same place they would be located on a mechanical 3.5-inch hard drive. And it's metal. It's not even plastic. So let me see if that's going to fit. It appears to be the right place. This is exactly what stuff like this is made for. So we've got the holes. If we take a regular mechanical drive and we line it up, these holes are going to be right aligned with where they should be. This is the only 2.5-inch to 3.5-inch adapter I have ever witnessed in my life that does this. And like I said, you'd think every single one ever made, this would be the standard. But this is the exception. I'm just glad somebody makes it. Okay, so let's get the drive out of here. Whenever you deal with this, you're only going to encounter this on factory computers, stuff like Dells and HPs and Lenovo's. This is nothing you'll ever have to deal with on a computer you build yourself, this is just another limiting factor of the case design. It's something the manufacturer has done that sort of ties you to them, whether you want to be tied to them or not. I'm just a big fan of making your own computer. Not only will it save you money, not only can you get a more powerful computer for the same amount of money or less, but you don't deal with anything proprietary, so your options are much greater freedoms and choices, and adaptability, flexibility, upgradability, repairability is all far superior than all the pre-built fab stuff from Dell, HP, Lenovo, Acer, all the main manufacturers. Now, to install our drive, real easy. I'm going to take this adapter and we're just going to plug the drive in, first and foremost, into the connector. And then the holes on the bottom are going to line up right down here. And I'm going to use some flathead screws that come with the adapter to secure the drive into position. And I should have those in, what did I do with that little bag of screws? Oh, they're over here. So this is a little bag of screws that came with it. And I want a real fine threaded screw, which should be these really tiny screws right here. These are the ones, I thought they'd have flat heads, they don't. But these are the ones I'm going to use. They're really, really small. And they're just going to secure that SSD into the adapter. Doesn't take much, just about 2 or 3 turns of the screwdriver, and that's it. That's all it takes. There we go. Now we effectively have all the same shape and size of a regular mechanical hard drive. All the mounting holes are in the same place. This is important because we want to take this drive, pay attention to how it's mounted in here. Notice the connectors are on this side. The pull tab is on the opposite side. So we're going to take this out. We'll set it down and put this one in the exact same way. And the same holes should just line right up, and they do. And I'm going to take the same, I'm not going to use the screws that the adapter came with. I'm going to use the screws that I removed from this drive. These are the Dell factory screws, or Alienware. Dell owns Alienware. And these should work if I get it lined up. Yeah, there's one. Here's our last screw here. And as you can see, we don't need a space for, you know, a dedicated space for a 2.5-inch drive if you have the right type of adapters on hand. And the first thing you need to know is that they exist. How could you buy something you didn't know existed? And that's what it's going to look like when it's properly installed in our SATA ports. This is a critical part. Must be in the right place for this then to slide in and lock down. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. Just has to slide in. And it's kind of tough to get it lined up. That's it. It's in. There's one other screw that gets secured down, which is over here somewhere. I thought it was a square screw, but maybe it was one of those flat round ones. I guess it was a flat one. So that will go back down like this. We can put our optical drive back in. It's going to go on like this and slide forward. And again, one screw is going to hold that into position. We're going to connect the SATA connector back to the optical drive, that weird SATA connector. Then we're going to put the video card back in, which is connected to this riser. And that's going to go in exactly the way it came out. Being careful to don't pinch any wires. And then we use two screws, the two that we have remaining. One goes in this side, and one goes on the other side. And that is the upgrade complete. Then we can do our first test fire. Ordinarily, I would test fire it before I put everything together, but in order to get this graphics card in, you know, this had to come out to get to the drive. So I don't really have much choice but to put it back together in order to do my test fire. Let's see if it boots. Now it's saying an internal hard drive not found, so we're going to enter the setup. And we need to look at boot options. I want to turn off these other boot options. I don't want it to try and boot from CD or floppy or network, so we'll turn all that off, disable it. And then for hard disk, there's usually an option for which hard disk. Let's go back. Not there. It is saying nothing is present on SATA port 1. So let's go ahead and save and exit. And now I'm going to pull the power. I may not, maybe I need to reseat that drive. It should see it. Just gonna try one more boot up here. It is not seeing the drive, so that's okay, don't freak out. You know, I didn't necessarily have to put the screws back in it, but I did have to put that graphics card back in it. Well, I guess I could run off onboard video, can't I? Maybe we'll do that. In fact, I'm plugged into onboard video. I'm not even plugged into the graphics card. So I guess we could do it without the graphics card. Make my life a little easier. Let's set that over there. I may have not seated this all the way, so what I want to do is just take it out and reseat it. The little tray that it sits in is a little funky, so I just want to make sure that I've got it seated right. Boy, it came out awful easy. I don't think it was in there actually. I think it actually went underneath. Now it feels like it's in. And then since we're going to run off the motherboard graph, do I want to do that? Yeah, let's just see if it tries to boot. I got a good feeling about this. It's a pretty simple procedure. It's not really a nail biter, to be honest. I'm sure it's going to work. Yeah, it's loading. So again, not rocket science. And you'll see it comes up a lot faster now than it did. It's practically already at the desktop. Look at that. So let me go ahead and shut this back down. I'll just hit the power button. It should cycle down. So what happened there was the connector, it feeds into the connector like this. And so when I put it in, I actually went underneath of it. I didn't go into the connector, I went under it. So from above, it looked like it was in, but in fact it wasn't. So just watch for those kind of mistakes when you're building. Don't immediately think something's wrong. The first thing you should assume when you're working on a computer, building a computer, repairing or upgrading a computer, and it doesn't work, ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Don't immediately start blaming, oh my gosh, you know, the drive must be bad, this must be bad. No, and most of the time, in my experience, it's the mistake that you made. So if you're frustrated, you might need to take a little time away from it if need be to, you know, get your mind off of it if you start getting frustrated. But you got to ask yourself what you did. Do not blame the hardware until you've exhausted and double checked all of your work, and even have somebody else look at it with a fresh set of eyes, because they might see something you didn't see. Those should be your first assumptions. And then bad hardware should be your final, like nothing else is left, after you've questioned the heck out of yourself. The overconfidence I run into on a regular basis on the internet with people asking for help, and you know, you could ask them really basic things and people sometimes get offended, like, well, of course I know to do that. Well, would you do it for me anyway? Just humor me? Oh, well, now it's working. I don't know why. So it just happens. It doesn't always happen, but it happens a lot. All right, that should be it. We should be able to cover back on. We'll hook the light back up. Trying to get this thing lined up is a pain. Oops, I just turned it on. Something isn't clicking into place here. This side wants to go in, but this side doesn't want to go in for some reason. It's something is just not lining up correctly. There it goes. There it goes. And then we just have our final screw to place in here. And that's it. Upgrade is done. It's just that simple. This is the customer's old drive, and you could see it was in a failed state as we had some bad sectors on there. I'm sure if I had done like a check disk on it with a sector scan, which would have taken a couple hours, I would have found that, but the drive wasn't behaving in any way to suggest it. It was just crystal disk info that alerted me to the drive's health status. These extra screws that came with the adapter, that can go into the trash. I don't need those. The box that the SSD came in can go into the garbage. The box the adapter came in can go into the garbage. It's all trash. This little adapter can go back in its box, and I'll have it for next time. I know I have a little wire tie around here for this somewhere. Did I leave it in the box? And then customer will bring me some other weird piece of hardware at some point in the future, and I'll be pulling this thing out again. I think I'm going to keep this in there now. You know what? I'll keep the SATA cable in there too. And just put it all in there. Oh, this is why I had so much room in here. I didn't put that back. Okay, that takes care of that. And let me put this stuff away. This is my Cronus. That can be put away for next time. You see how easy that was with the Cronus. Real painless, pretty straightforward. All our partitions got copied. All the data, wallpaper, documents, photos, caches, cookies. It's all right back to the way it was. It's just to the customer, he's going to have half as much free space, but he was barely scratching the surface, literally and figuratively, of that mechanical 1 terabyte drive. So 500 gigs, even though it's half the capacity, he's only using maybe 1/10 of that capacity. So I'm going to turn this monitor around because it's really bugging me how it's really affecting the light. And I need to sign in so that it can detect new hardware. And when I bring up the sign up page, the customer's private info shows, so I don't want you guys to see that. So let me do that real quick. Yeah, we are up and running. Looks good. I would have to plug it into my network to load up crystal disk info, but I can just tell the way it's running. It's very fast. The amount of space we're using on the C drive is 90 gigs with 365 gigs available. Surprisingly, I don't see the new hardware wizard running. Usually when you change the drive out, Windows says, oh, I've auto-detected new hardware. You need to restart the computer to make the change, once the driver's loaded. This has not done that, so I'm fine with that. This is a confusing setup because it works like Windows 8, but it says it's Windows 8, sorry. It's Windows 8.1. It's a Core i5 4430. Hey, maybe I could have taken his CPU out and put it in that other motherboard. No, because if it's something that I don't want to jeopardize the customer's CPU. I think that's the same CPU though. Wasn't the other one a 4430? I thought it was. And let's shut her down. So it's shutting down now, and that should occur here pretty briefly. And that's ready to go back to the customer tomorrow. I'll bring it back to the customer. Customer will pay me for the drive, and I don't normally sell parts. The customer's just going to reimburse me for what I paid. So basically, I don't make any money on it. And then the labor's a flat rate labor that I charge regardless of how much time I spend on it. And that was an incentive for the customer to have the hard drive swapped out now, because otherwise he'd have to pay me again and suffer through not having the computer for another couple days. If I took care of it while I've got it, his labor rate is the same now as it was before I started. That's just the way I run my business. It's just a business choice, and it seems to work well for me against my competitors here in the Phoenix area. That may not work well in all areas of the country or in other countries, but for me, it's doing. I'm happy with it. So the only thing left now is to rebuild the computer that I started the diagnostic on earlier, but unfortunately, Amazon has not yet delivered my parts. Do my customers pay me ahead of time? No, I've got the customer's computer, which is collateral. In fact, I would say if any technician wants to take your computer and your money, find another tech, because the customer needs incentive to pay and the tech needs incentive to get paid. If the tech already has your money and your computer, they might just decide to do the job tomorrow or next week, whenever. So you need to always incentivize people with the money, and you incentivize your customer by holding on to their equipment until they pay you. That is the proper, moral, ethical way to run the business, in my opinion. What if a customer doesn't pay? So I have a podcast. It's called Tech Vats, Veterans of Technology. And myself and Mike Smith run computer repair businesses. We've got over 2.5 decades each of experience. So together over 50 years of repair experience. And we discuss all this stuff. If you're interested in running a business or becoming a tech and you want to know what's involved in it, be sure and check out. It's an audio broadcast. We've been doing it for many years now. Lately, we've only been doing a handful of shows a year. And you can listen to those at your convenience, and we cover all that. I won't cover it here because it's not what this channel's about, but it's all covered. Contracts, difficult customers, insurance, liabilities, marketing, Chamber of Commerce, FINRA, HIPAA rules, obligations. It goes on and on and on. Bill collection. We discuss all of it. What do you tell the customer about possible loss of data? I'm just honest. I cut right to the chase. It is what it is. If the hard drive's failing, hard drive's failing. Depends on the situation, but whatever the situation is, I just tell them, hey, your hard drive's gone. Do you have a backup? Well, then, do you want to send this in for data recovery? You can expect to spend $500 before it's all said and done, without any guarantees that you're going to get the data back, blah, blah, blah. If the drive is failing, do you want me to try and recover it without any promises? Is there anything specific you want me to look for? It's just straightforward and honest. I don't know. I don't make things up. I don't sugarcoat anything. I just give the customer all the information, like Mr. Spock would do. Just facts, 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 facts. and let the customer guy tell me what they want. If the customer doesn't like what I've got to say, or they don't like how I'm saying it, I'm more than happy to put it back together, give it back to the customer, and let them find somebody else to work on it. Doesn't bother me. I mean, I'd rather have no customer at all than an unhappy customer. That's my business motto. One thing a customer may try and tell you how to run your business. It's not their business, right? It's no different than you guys in the chat room telling me what tools to use. It's not your business. You guys use whatever tools you want to use. I'm just showing you how. It's funny how that works. People are very quick to offer their advice, but there are very few people willing to take it. So it works that way on both ends. If there's something you prefer, then that's how you should do it. And if you run your own business and you have the same sort of understanding of obligation and liability that I have, and yet you still choose to use the tool you use, you're free to do that. And I'm free to use the tools that I use. And customers, if they don't like the way I run my business and they want me to run it a different way, it's just not going to happen. I mean, if what the customer wants is reasonable, I'm flexible. But if what they want is simply not the way I run my business, I just strongly advise them that it's not how I do things, and I'm sure they could find somebody else who can. And if they ask me for a referral of who would do that, I have no idea. I don't know anybody I don't maintain those kind of contacts of people who cut corners or don't do things in a professional manner. So I've got no advice for them other than, if you want me to fix it, or you want me to move forward, I'm happy to. If you don't want me to and you want to find somebody else, that's fine too, but that's the extent of it. It doesn't go any further than that. Do you ever get customers that try to blame you for something that they did? Not in a long, long time. When you deal with residential customers, you mostly deal with that. Once in a while with businesses, but businesses often pay enough, that it's worth just listening to what they have to say and fixing it rather than arguing or debating with them, if it's just a once in a while type thing. But residential customers, especially back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I had a handful of them that just kept reinfecting themselves and thinking that they could bring their computer back for a cleanup since they just paid me to have it done. And they don't comprehend how they're getting the virus. They're computer illiterate, so you can't really explain it in a level that they can easily understand. And with those customers, I had one particular that sticks out that brought the computer back about 4 days after I had fixed it. It was reinfected again. And I said, I'll tell you what, I will clean it. It is not part of your warranty, but I'll do it once. You can bring it back. I will clean it again at no charge, even though I'm under no obligation to do it. I won't do it again. If you reinfect it again and you bring it back, I will charge you for it. Customer agreed, brought it back. A couple days later, called me up, it was reinfected again. And the customer was very accusational towards me, and I was pretty upset about it. And the customer said, well, what can I do? And I said, look, there's no antivirus you can buy that's going to protect you. You cannot go and buy a safe car and think you don't need to learn how to drive a car because you drive a Volvo. It doesn't matter how safe your car is. It doesn't exempt you from learning how to drive and being a responsible driver and making wise decisions behind the wheel. I don't care what kind of insurance you have. Well, how am I supposed to do that? Go to school, read some books, buy an Apple. And the look on the customer's face was almost like I told him something nasty. I said, no, I'm sincere. If you don't want to have to learn anything, you can't be bothered, and you just think that these viruses have nothing to do with anything of your actions, you need to go buy an Apple. That's it. It costs a bit more, but then all your problems are solved. And that was the last time I ever talked to that customer. But it's true, absolutely serious. $20 contributed by Nick Poverman. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for the contribution to the channel. Have you ever had any international customers? I don't do anything internationally. Sorry, guys. Justin Havus contributed $5 to the channel. Says, glad you got the Alienware back up and running. Can't wait for the dramatic conclusion on the Shogun build. Yeah, the Shogun build is right there behind me. Also, happy you had a great Christmas. Well, thank you. I hope you guys all had a good holiday, whether it was Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever you celebrate. As long as you got a holiday and it was a good one. The Cystic Gamers contributed, looks like $10. Is that Australian? Hey, Carrie, I've been watching your videos and they're great. I've even been trying to run SLI. I'm using 2 gigabyte 1070 G1 gaming graphic cards, and one card is using a different RGB app and one the other. I don't know if I can help you on that one. The thing about the RGB, when you deal with the colors and you want everything to be synchronized, is the Aura system, which you'll see on a lot of motherboards. And if everything's Aura compatible, you use one app to control all the lighting. So like on the Shogun case that's behind me, that's an Aura RGB lighting case. The motherboard is an Aura motherboard. And so with the motherboard app, you'll be able to control the lights on the case and the motherboard together so they will be synchronized. But without that, when you're dealing with different models, you have no choice but to use different apps. It's just the way it is, as far as I know. I386 has contributed $5.28. That's an odd amount, but thank you for the contribution just the same. I need advice for a multimedia build. Well, you can go to our Facebook fan page. I say our because it involves a lot more than just me. On Facebook, if you just search for Kerry Holzman YouTube fan page, there are volunteers there that are happy to answer technical support or build advice questions. In fact, Catherine Anna Hauserman, who's a mod in the chat right now, she's our build master. She will put together a parts list that meet your needs and budget for free. Just ask nicely. You can even ask her right now in the live chat if you like. She'll do it. Look at her. She's like, I'm happy to write a parts list. She's sick and twisted like that. She likes that stuff. You know, the problems that I had in the business 15 years ago are different now because people have become more computer literate. Back 15, as soon as 15 years ago, which isn't that long ago, dealt with a lot of people that were, didn't know what an icon was, didn't know the difference between RAM and a CPU. A lot of that's sort of common knowledge now. There's still people out there that don't know, but for the most part, it's common knowledge. And you still run into people who don't know basic computer operation, but they're few and far between now. And a lot of it is the senior community. Most have jumped on board by now. I'm sure there's some out there. A lot of the older generation say, I don't need it. I've lived my whole life without it. And then one of their kids or grandkids or something happens and, you need to talk to us. This is the way to do it. So they buy it all I'm going to use it for, just for that reason, is to talk to my grandkids or, talk to my kids. And then one thing leads to another, and suddenly they're using the computer for everything. They're emailing everybody, And there's still a couple of stragglers out there that just haven't had that final shove, but most of them have already adopted it. So you don't really see it very often, but it used to be very, very common, just par for the course, that people knew how to turn it on and click the mouse, and that was the extent of their computer knowledge. It was a mystery what a browser was. Even though they were using it every day, they didn't know what it was called. They didn't understand what installation meant or what download meant. You'll hear people say, you don't hear it too often, but someone will say, how do I download more RAM on my computer? And to those of us that are technical, it's a funny thing. And I don't mean to laugh at somebody's lack of experience, but it's just a funny concept to me. When people misuse the technology like they're trying to sound smarter than they are, they think they understand it, so they're using the words, but they're not using them grammatically correct or even structurally correct, where they're saying, I bought this software at Best Buy and I downloaded it on my computer. If you bought the software at Best Buy, you installed it on your computer. You didn't download it. If you downloaded it, you'd have bought it online. So it's just this kind of terminology, but the fun one is downloading more RAM. How do I download? And people confuse the word download with install. I don't know why in the computer industry we have different words when we already have words in the English language. I don't understand that. We don't have to say download. We could say receive. We don't have to say upload. We could say send. In every sentence of everything you could ever come up with, if you replace the word upload with send and the word download with receive, it would make just as much sense. The difference is we have to have these technical terms for some reason I don't understand. We talk about a page file, a swap file, or virtual memory. We're essentially talking about the exact same thing. Why has it got 3 names? I don't know. And it does make it difficult for beginners to learn, and it can be very intimidating because we already have words for that. So it'd be a lot easier for a beginner or a novice to learn, and it would be less intimidating if we just use words we already had. We don't need to make backups. You never need to use the word backup. Never. The word copy already exists. If your data is important, make copies of it. Why do we have to say backup? Almost every single word I can think of that we use in conjunction of using a computer, we already have another word for that people have been using and are already familiar with. I wish I could explain why this weird necessity for additional words when we already had words that, and yet we have things we don't have words for. A lot of feelings and a lot of emotion and a lot of things that we feel we have no way to describe. Try to explain to somebody what pain means. It's discomfort, but there's a lot of levels to discomfort. Try to explain to somebody what hot means. You really don't know the definition of the word hot until you've burned yourself. Try to explain to somebody how to ride a bicycle. There's just no words. You have to figure out balance. And how do you do that other than you get on the bike and you fall down a few times and you sort of have to figure it out. So we have all of these problems in the world where we don't, at least in the English language, we don't have words for things, and yet we have multiple words that all mean the same thing. What are you going to do? I'm sort of stalling, waiting for Amazon, but usually, I mean, they could show up, as late as 8 o'clock. It's only 5:30 here now, so might just have to wrap this up and pick it up tomorrow. I really wanted to get this done tonight so I could deliver it tomorrow. I am going to have a little bit of a challenge on my hands because this is a 250 chipset. Windows 7 isn't designed to run on a 250 chipset. Windows 7 isn't designed to run on an M.2 drive. So my life would be a lot easier if I would have, at the very least, just kept the solid state drive they've got and not upgraded it to M.2. But I never think about how difficult it is. I think about, if it was mine, what would I want? And if we're going to go this far, why don't we do it right? Even if it means it's going to make my job harder. So I will have to figure that out. I will have to figure out how to get Windows 7 cloned over to the M.2. Acronis should do that okay. But then once it's cloned over, then I have to figure out how to make it boot. If it'll load the drivers for it, I'm going to have to reactivate it. and I'll have to load the drivers for the 250 chipset for Windows 7. It's not going to be fun. And then Windows 7 by default is going to say, I don't support this hardware, and Windows Update isn't going to work. And then I have to patch that with the WUFUC fix. I didn't name it, WUFUC. I don't know what it stands for, but it's a Windows Update fix for the latest chipsets, because it's not a technical reason Windows 7 doesn't update. There's not a real technical incompatibility. This is a made-up marketing tactic to get you to upgrade to Windows 10. That's all it is. It's nothing about Windows 7 is incompatible with the latest processors. It's silly to even think that. So does this business need Windows 7? Every computer in the business is Windows 7, so if we upgrade one to Windows 10, it makes that one different than all the others. So we want to keep we keep them all the same. These people, remember, if they were technical people, they wouldn't be hiring me. They'd be doing this all themselves. So we want to keep it as painless and as transparent to them as possible. When I bring the computer back, I want it to look and operate exactly like it did when I picked it up and what they're used to. I don't want to just flip their world upside down and say, here, learn a bunch of new stuff. Oh, and by the way, I see that big stack of work you're waiting to get caught up on. Good luck with that as you're trying to reacquaint yourself with where everything is and how everything works. It's just common courtesy, and it's good business. Make sure the customer, make the process as painless, as inexpensive, as quick as you can for the customer. Track your Amazon package. I've tracked it. It says it's out for delivery. That's all it says. It's said that since 2 o'clock. I'm looking over, if you're wondering, I'm looking over to the side. I've got a big monitor here, and I'm reading your comments in the chat. On Friday, which I think is the 29th, I'm expected to do the mini ITX Ryzen build with my niece. I hope you guys are going to tune in for that. I hope to start that live stream. I hope to do it live. Hopefully she's on board with that. If everything goes like I'm picturing it in my head, we'll go live around noon on Friday, and we're going to do the mini ITX Ryzen build. And I've got Friday and Saturday blocked off for that. That's the only thing I've got on my schedule, because she needs to go back to college and bring the computer with her, and she's only visiting for a short period of time from Oregon. And of course, if you can't watch it live, it will be made available after the broadcast, just as this one was, and the one before it was, etc., after YouTube has processed it. I'm hoping to get that started Friday, the 29th, around noon, which would be 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. The Christmas Day live stream is not available. Yeah, I took it down. It's just me saying hello and talking with you guys. There's no technical information really in there. It had no value at all to be archived and stored. You didn't miss anything. It was just hanging out. There's no sense keeping that up. What happened is YouTube said that was not advertiser friendly. So I got into a big argument once again with the people at YouTube. And they said, our bad. And then they enabled it as being advertiser friendly. And then my big middle finger to YouTube was, well, now you're not going to make any money off of it. So, haha for you. How do you like it? See how you like it when it gets done to you. So there's a little bit of a little tension between YouTube and myself right now as they continue to mark any of my videos as not being advertiser friendly. They have no foundation or precedent on which to base that on my channel. With over 400 videos and over 6 years on YouTube, I should be one of the most confident creators I should be one of the creators they have the most confidence in. My stuff should just be whitelisted. It should not go through their machine learning, so that it's just ridiculous to inconvenience the creators and the viewers. And it's hurting. It's bad enough what they're doing financially to YouTube creators, but then to make a video that's brand new to market as not advertiser friendly hurts big time, because videos, when they're first produced, they get a lot of views and then they kind of level off. And in the amount of time it takes YouTube to respond, you might have missed out on lots and lots of views. All you can do is make the video unavailable. And if YouTube ever gets around to reclassifying it as being advertiser friendly, then you can make it available, but by then the information may be obsolete, or your audience may not be interested in it anymore. A lot of things in the tech business are very timely. So if you don't get it within a certain period of window of time, you miss your opportunity. And what's worse is, let's say you've got some content you made last year, and YouTube decides that content you made last year is not advertiser friendly, and they disable monetization. They won't even consider reclassifying it unless you get 1,000 views in a week. Well, that video might have 150,000 views over the last year, but it may only be getting 20 views a week now. And that will forever be demonetized, because it will never again gain enough views for YouTube to reevaluate it. And they've done that to a couple of my videos as well. So anyway, that's what happened to the Christmas live stream. You didn't miss anything. It was just chit chat. There's no work. Missing your 24/7 building on Twitch. Yeah, I hope to bring that back. I'm working on another solution for that. Just haven't had time. Everything's been so busy. I've got a friend of mine that set up a virtual server for me, and I'm hoping it'll have the power. The other virtual server I tried wasn't rendering the videos fast enough. And then when I had my internet issues here, I couldn't stream or upload anything. So I do want to continue doing the 24/7 live streaming of previous builds on Twitch. And I will get back to that. What I like most about it, and even when I do it here on YouTube, is that whenever there's a live stream, even if it's a live stream of pre-recorded content, it enables the chat. And the chat, to me, is the most important part of the community. It's so that you guys can talk to each other, that you have a place to go to find like-minded individuals to discuss computers, to discuss your build, or to discuss your troubleshooting, or just to talk about computers. And the only way to get live chat on YouTube or even on Twitch that I've seen is to have a live stream. Now, a live stream doesn't necessarily mean it has to be live right at that moment. You can take pre-recorded content and live stream that content. And that's what I've been doing. I did that with YouTube for a while, and I did it with Twitch, and I will continue to do it on Twitch. A lot of people on YouTube don't get it. Like, they'll see a rerun on TV of Sports Center that aired live earlier in the day, and it airs 6 more times after that. They'll watch the news at midnight, even though the news was recorded live hours earlier, and they accept it. But when you do it on YouTube, people act as though you've somehow deceived them. You said this was live. Well, it is live. It is being broadcast. It is a live broadcast of a pre-recorded video. So if the stream gets interrupted, if the modem goes down, if something happens to the internet, the stream is interrupted. But it's the only way to get the chat room. It's the only way you can have the chat. So that's why I'm doing that. So that you guys, it's for you. So you guys have a place. You can come in, and that's why it's got to run 24/7, so that you can come in anytime you want. Unfortunately, with Twitch, I've never seen any activity in the chat room. but it's still new and it needs time, and I just have to let it run, and eventually people will find out about it, I hope. If you build it, they will come, right? And then start using it as I intend. Do you do anything more with Newegg? No, no. Mm-mm. I don't want to use anything like IRC because this channel was created for novices. And it's all well and good that you're competent and technical enough to know IRC, but not many people, of the people I'm trying to attract, do know it. And I don't want the people who know to take over my channel and turn it into a technical channel. I have been distracted and sometimes taken on things that were far too complicated for my intended audience because members of the audience were technical and that's what they requested. That is not my intention here. My intention here is to try and make this technology approachable and attainable to people who are uncomfortable or intimidated by it, to show how easy it is. And so when the technical people come in and start asking the technical questions, I feel I'm alienating those people and they're being pushed to the back. And I really want them to be the main focus of the channel in the hopes that one day they will become those very technical people and they can move to other channels or other locations on the internet to have those technical discussions. Other YouTube channels, there's plenty to choose from. And I just feel like the vast majority of computer owners are not technical, they don't know much about them, and they feel intimidated by them. And my goal is to embrace them and let them know they're welcome into our community and that we're not any smarter than they are. We all have learned this stuff. None of us were born knowing it. We've had the advantage of having people teach us, or we've had the ambition to go and look things up and to educate ourselves. But none of us were born with it. So when people, it just really bothers me when people think that they can't learn it or that it's a boys club, if for lack of a better explanation. So I really want my channel to appeal to the novices. And I hope those novices embrace it and start to consider themselves technical people and outgrow me. But I still want to be around, still doing what I'm doing for the generation behind them, et cetera, et cetera. If anybody was ever born knowing it, then I wouldn't need this channel. What are you doing, Jimmy? 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 What's up, Jimmy? You want to say hello? You want to say hello? Come here. Oh, there he is. There he is. Is my face clean? Yeah. I got dog lick on me. Yes, Jimmy is a German Shepherd. He's a fawn German. If you Google fawn German Shepherd, you'll see a lot of shepherds that look like that. He doesn't have the black saddle that most people associate with German Shepherds. It's not a requirement. So I'm waiting on Amazon to deliver the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and M.2 drive for the computer I started earlier in the earlier live stream. I was hoping it would have been here by now. So that was my plan, was to get this machine and the other machine done and get them both delivered tomorrow, because on Friday, my niece is coming in and we're doing the Ryzen build. So I have to get this stuff out. And the customers wanted it back today. So I delayed both of those customers by one day. And I also have another computer that's done. Actually, I have 3 to drop off tomorrow. I'll be in the car most of the day tomorrow, because these customers couldn't live, well, they could live further apart, but they're not close together. One's over here, one's over there. It's like a big triangle I have to make. So I want everything done tonight so I can do that tomorrow. It'll all arrive when the stream turns off. Well, that's Murphy's Law. You're probably right. As soon as I end the stream, I'll probably have a knock on the door and there'll be my parts. But I think what I'll do for right now, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this one up, because we're an hour and 41 minutes in, and I'm quickly losing light, and I don't know when Amazon's bringing those parts by. And if I can, I will start another stream as soon as the parts arrive. If I can't, I don't know how late it's going to be. And it might have really bad lighting, but I really need to get it done tonight. And if I'm going to do it, I'd like to film it. So I think that's where we're going to end it for right now. And I hope I'll see you guys again here before the end of the day. So thank you all for tuning in, and one more time, if you don't catch me later tonight, this Friday, December 29th, about noon, which is 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing a Ryzen Mini ITX build. My niece has never built a computer before. It'll be similar to the build mitzvah that you saw with my 13-year-old nephew, who's 14 now. Only I'll be doing this with my niece, and she's never built a computer before. And she's about 5 years older than him. And I will guide her. She will do all the work, and I will just guide her. And it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys will join in. And Mike and I were supposed to do a Tech Vets tonight, and I haven't heard from him, so I need to check in on Mike and find out what's going on, because it's going to be almost 8 o'clock his time. So maybe I'll be able to squeeze a Tech Vets in between now and when Amazon shows up with parts. I actually forgot about that. All right, well, you guys take it easy. I hope I'll see you later tonight. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, regardless. Have a good night. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.